Hello everyone, welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek here on It's a Wonderful Podcast, the fallout of the tragedy of Mitch's death and funeral, obviously, is what we're getting into this week. But I think it's fair to say that, season 5 started off pretty strong in its first 4 episodes, and I feel like it really hit that emotional peak very early, obviously, with this tragedy that we were talking about for at great length during the last episode, obviously, and then the funeral. And now I feel like with these 2 episodes, the show's kind of going, oh, well, we did that. So what are we going to do now? That was pretty early in the season to do something like that. I'm led to believe as well, since having watched, obviously, the death of Mitch, the funeral, and since that episode came out, that I have been dutifully informed by our lovely viewer, Eric Monroe, that John Wesley Shipp, in fact, asked to leave Dawson's Creek due to the reduced nature of the parents' role.
Now that the kids were in college,
Yes, which makes total sense. I suppose a pretty harsh way of doing it. You could have just not had Dawson's parents in, although it would have felt a little bit weird, I suppose. Not at least do something like that, and certainly it was a great honouring piece to what John Wesley Shipp. I always struggle to say the man's name.
John Wesley Shipp,
Badly struggle to say the man's name. I always want to say Slip or Schwip or something like that. It's a terrible name to try and say quickly for my voice for some reason. But to honour him in that way was obviously a wonderful send-off for that character and for that actor in this show. But what's the show going to do after it's done that? Well, it's going to leave Dawson in a bit of a state of elongated grief, of disillusionment, and that is where we meet him again in this 5th episode of the season. But what on earth do we now do with everyone else? Do we just swiftly move on from that tragedy? Kind of, in a way, which feels... I don't know how we feel about that. Do we feel like we want more fallout from that? There's always been a thing. It's always been a thing with me since starting Discovering Dawson's Creek, that for some reason the show doesn't like you to sit in any given state for any length of time. That is what happens in the real world, and we deal here in real world feeling melodrama, I suppose. We can we in the real world can feel our feelings on a certain subject for weeks and months on end, sometimes, if not years on end, sometimes. But
we're seeing Dawson deal with it. We're seeing him struggle with it. So I don't think we've moved on from it. But I think in terms of everyone else, all those storylines felt somewhat fabricated. So, to kind of muster up some interest. These didn't feel like organic storylines like we are kind of used to seeing, I think. These all felt like, okay, this actor asked to leave. This is a big point, but now, like, what is going on with everyone else? I don't know. Like, what is going to be interesting enough to come after such a big, impactful thing? And then it's just, 2 characters worried about people they like, having affairs, and
Audrey having affairs and relationship bother going
on exactly. Basically, that's all 3. Just give our 3 other characters relationship drama, and Audrey is a terrible mom, basically, is what we get.
Pretty much, and it's perfectly good. It's perfectly fine. I think it's
it's executed, but it just coming off of those 2 really impactful emotional episodes, going into this, it just felt like, what's the easiest thing we can muster up,
Yeah.
and that's what these 2 episodes felt like not
Yeah.
really anything substantial happening.
No. And what is the thing we as Dawson's Creek do well or do very comfortably? It is emotional relationship melodrama.
Yeah.
That's heavily manipulative and a bit back and forthy and wishy-washy, and we always know about that, don't we? And I'm certainly not saying that Dawson himself isn't staying with those emotions of his father's death. We are sitting in Dawson's mindset on that grief for an elongated period of time. I was talking more about the show itself not doing that, and never seemingly doing that, sitting in a state of any given emotion for any great length of time. It's always looking to progress. Okay, you can take that as a positive if you want to.
Yeah.
I would always prefer a little bit more time, I think, dedicated to one particular emotional state of being. That's how I like my pacing, I think, when it comes to these sort of shows, these sort of things. When I'm given something that is stretched over a period of years, like obviously Dawson's Creek is, I expect a slower, steadier, more kind of, I suppose, true to life pace about it. And a lot of the time, you're not getting that in Dawson's Creek, and that's fine. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy Dawson's Creek. It doesn't mean you can't, it doesn't even mean you're annoyed by it a lot of the time. It's just whenever it does come up, whenever we do too swiftly move on to that next thing, I always feel it. I always get that click in my mind of going, okay, we're just moving on. Oh, all right. Okay, I've got to deal with this now. I've got to deal with the moving on. I've got to deal with the change. I've got to deal with the switch up. And it's perfectly fine. But could I have done with another full episode of grief? It wouldn't have been nice. But from a pacing point of view, pacing standpoint,
it would have
probably. That's my opinion.
It would have felt more real. Yeah, it would have added some realism, I think, some groundedness to the story. So we're getting, a version of that with Dawson coping in, some not so great ways.
Yes, he doesn't care for the therapy and what have you that he's trying to get through various sort of guidance means.
Yeah, he is struggling with how to cope with the loss, which is kind of what we saw him dealing with coming out of those 2 episodes. So it makes sense. I think they're doing a decent enough job settling into Dawson not really figuring out the best way to cope right now. But I think everything else happening around that just feels a little lazy, I will say.
Well,
entertaining in terms of what this show is good at, like you said, but after some really well executed episodes, this felt kind of like light.
Well, it's to be expected. We can't all be firing
bangers
all the time, can we? It would be extremely impressive to be doing that, which has any show ever fired on all cylinders all the time?
Every single episode,
It hasn't, has it? Obviously, nothing has. The most popular, the most beloved, the most successful TV shows in history have not done that. So Dawson, we can't expect Dawson's Creek to do that as well. But get the binder out. Yes, let's get into the synopsis of episode 5, which is Use Your
Disillusions. Yes. Aired November.
Or delusions, if you want to. We can have delusions as well.
Use Your Delusion, singular. Aired November 7th, 2001. Dawson takes Joey up on her invitation for a weekend in Boston, but the two have reservations once there. Meanwhile, Jack is surprised when his boyfriend Toby shows up unexpectedly, forcing Jack to choose between Fraternity Hell Week and spending time with Toby.
Yes, I feel like a lot of this fifth episode, this first one we're talking today, is quite Jack and Toby focused, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And okay, strife comes about for Jack and Toby, doesn't it, really? Because it's all very nice. You know, we know Jack's got involved in the fraternity and Toby comes and you know, to visit, and he's introduced to the fraternity brothers, and it's all very nice. You know, here's Toby, this is my boyfriend. Oh, hi, Toby, how are you? And it's all, you know, there's none of the judgment that Jack had assumed would be the case with if ever Toby was to come or being in the fraternity or anything like that. So that's all very nice and very good. I think you can see why Jack is so in love with this new fraternity life.
Yeah, that this
because
acceptance
it's so
that
positive.
he's found.
It's
it's so opposite from his high school experience.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily condemn Jack for his mentality for the rest of this episode when Toby comes in and I suppose in Toby's eyes senses change, in Jack's senses a sort of what's going on here? Is this you? I don't really like this. Are they not acting in some way because you're gay? And we know what Toby's been like in the past, very protective over his own sexuality.
Yes, and very much thinking gay should be a specific way to act and that kind of thing, and projecting that on Jack. So do I think Jack has changed in being in the fraternity? Not really. Like, Jack is kind of the same as he's always been and kind of has the same stance he's always had. He is kind of more protective of this experience because it's very precious in the fact that, like you said, it's very different and counter to what he experienced in high school, this level of acceptance so quickly. But I think he had been pretty upfront with Toby, and I think that's the one thing that's different. Like, he's not as upfront with Toby as I think he should be, because at a certain point, he's on the phone with somebody, and he refers to Toby as his friend.
I mean, we shouldn't be doing that anymore, should we?
When Toby is kind of saying what he needs from this relationship and what he wants from Jack doesn't really kind of outright say, like, that's not what I want, maybe we should break up. Like, Jack doesn't, like, initiate saying that maybe this isn't working for me right now. He kind of just blows him off, essentially, and lets Toby stew in these bad feelings, doesn't really care to resolve anything. And ultimately, in the end, when Toby decides to leave and is kind of hoping Jack will at least come say goodbye, he doesn't. So I thought that was pretty shitty on Jack's part. Like, I think we've railed on about how little we like Toby.
Yes, he's just generally quite an obnoxious character. I mean, he has softened over the course of his small role in the show. Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But he is still quite obnoxious is a bit too strong a word for what Toby is at the moment. He's just he's a little bit grating even still in just some of his mentalities. Some of his ideologies, I suppose, are a little bit just, oh God, I can't.
It's heavy. It's a little, and I think it's a little heavy-handed for Jack's first relationship, but Jack needed to express that and make that clear. And Jack could have done that. Jack had opportunities to do that, and he chose to just be dismissive and just kind of ignore it and kind of hope it would just resolve itself. So I think that his handling, I'm not upset that they broke up, but I don't quite like how Jack handled it. And I do kind of understand Jen's, anger towards Jack about that, and her maybe feeling like it's coming from this change from the fraternity because it's also affecting kind of their time that they're spending together and their relationship. So while I don't think Jack personality wise has changed, I think who he's spending his time with and that taking away from the people he normally does is what's making it feel like a change to those people.
Yeah, it's an interesting breakup from the show standpoint, because both parties are sort of in the wrong, but neither have done anything overly wrong. You know,
exactly.
it's just how they deal with that situation and how they treat each other in that situation that should have just been a bit of a serious conversation and a resolution.
Yeah, and then kind of
let's never see each other again because
never
you've
talk
changed.
about
Well,
it.
you're not listening to me. Well, you're not listening to me.
Yes, and they could have resolved it pretty maybe cordially at this goodbye, but Jack just chooses not to show up, which is a kind of shitty move, I thought. So I do, and Jen kind of having to be the one to pick up the pieces. I get Jen's frustration with Jack in that situation. Like, you leave me with your boyfriend after you did this to him, and now I have to kind of be the one picking up the pieces for you because you couldn't be bothered to show up. So I get Jen's frustration with him, and Jack, like, even when he walks in after Toby has left, he's just kind of, oh yeah, party tonight. Like, he has no feelings about it.
No, he's obsessed with the party, getting drunk, let's play video games and throw each other around.
Yeah. So I totally get why Jen is frustrated with him, because he doesn't seem to feel anything about this relationship, and her seeing how heartbroken Toby was. It just makes Jack look like an unfeeling kind of jerk. Had he just been honest about not feeling as strongly as Toby, or kind of just wanting to focus on his college experience right now, he could have said a myriad of things to end that relationship on a cordial way, let Toby down gently, but he didn't. And so when Jen has to leave Toby being all sad and heartbroken, and then Jack just comes in blowing off that goodbye, being all like, like he doesn't even care about it. He's too busy thinking about the next party. I get why Jen is pissed at him. And so, I'm more on Jen's side in the two of them not talking.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think it's a complete change in Jack. I think it's just him being more, precious about this experience that he's never had before.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think Jack will come to realize that he dealt with it badly, because I think he's a sensible, intelligent, introspective character and person. So I see that coming to a head. He's just in a single-minded mindset at the moment of just, let's focus all on this friendship, fraternity, acceptance angle, and really kind of forget that you're actually in a relationship, as little as we may like who you're in a relationship with.
And your pretty much relationship with Jen, like, you guys have had this really deep bond, and so the fact that you're not even kind of willing to hear her out, or listen to her grievances with what you did, is a bit upsetting as well. So the Toby relationship has also kind of weaved its way into affecting the Jack and Jen relationship as well, so that's kind of a bummer. But
it is. We don't like to see that. We like the strong platonic relationship that is Jack and Jen. And I'm sure that resolves itself somewhere swiftly down the line. I don't envision that not resolving itself. Or at least I would like to think it doesn't. Maybe it never does, and then it's like, oh God, what's going on here? I don't know what's obviously to come for the rest of season 5. Anything could damn happen. I didn't expect Mitch to be killed in a car crash, did I? But he was.
I know.
So
I know.
Who's to say what's going to happen?
Yes. But then we can move on to Pacey's story. Like, he has really, kind of formed this huge admiration for his boss, Danny, who has taken a shine to Pacey, who really, has taken him under his wing, mentoring him.
He had a friend than Dawson ever was.
Right?
And Pacey, I mean, he doesn't necessarily do anything wrong to Pacey.
To Pacey, yes. But Pacey, we see that he's had this bit of a flirtation with Karen, the waitress there. Despite their kind of bantering, as she kind of wanted the position that he got, and it seems like it is coming from a bit of a sexist place, like he chose Pacey because he was a guy, kind of thing.
I mean, it's interesting. I think the continued, you call it flirtation, between Karen and Pacey, because it's quite vitriolic It's quite kind of aggro
Well,
in
considering
its
I'm like, I found myself in the world of smut and that writing and those tropes,
ah.
like that kind of banter is very much kind of like, uh,
I mean,
a
isn't
trope in
I mean,
it's an
I
enemies
understand
to
where you're coming
lovers
from.
kind of
It
trope.
is.
I mean, we saw how terrible Pacey and Joey used to talk to each other.
You
Um,
know, do you know what? You're not wrong, to be fair, and that ended up working
yeah,
out to a point
yeah.
where we are devastated that it ever had to end, aren't
Exactly,
we?
exactly. So, yeah, so I think, it might be unrequited at the moment from Karen's perspective, but I think, she's warming to Pacey. But it's clear I think Pacey kind of likes her, or at least, finds her interesting or things. So maybe
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, but Danny asked Pacey, "Oh, I've heard about this houseboat. Like, do you think I could, borrow it to take the wife out, over there for like a romantic night?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." Oh, he's like, "I'll give you the night off, and uh, as a trade off." And he's like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah. I
So
mean,
he
it's a
lets him
little
use.
bit of a bold thing for Pacey to do, to just give the man, okay, we have a small bond with Danny now as
Yeah,
a boss, as a mentor, as a friend.
yeah,
But it's still a fairly new relationship in Pacey's life, and you're just gonna give
yeah.
him the key to your houseboat that he could take theoretically anywhere.
Well, considering he's his boss, like, I think he, can trust him to a degree where, like, he doesn't need to, like, steal his boat. Like, he has a
Jeannine, I've
successful
seen this
restaurant.
movie before. I've seen this movie before. It was a Best Picture winner in 1960. I've seen this movie before.
Yes, but does he steal the boat? No, that is not a plot point in this scenario. You're
No,
just
it's not, but it could have
going.
been. This is what I'm saying. This is what I was thinking
But,
it
I
might
mean,
be.
if you've seen the trust between these 2, I don't think they would take it there. I think they're trying to keep the
Who's to say
drama.
what they could do? They could
Yes,
do
but I
anything.
think after Mitch, I think they're keeping the drama fairly light here. So,
Ah, it's a
um,
fair point.
we're not getting any kind of crazy situation happening in terms of like anything sinister against Pacey
No.
here. Um,
We're just getting a
so
redo of the apartment
essentially, yes.
on a boat.
But Pacey's unaware of like his role in that.
He is, yes. But it must be said at first, well, no, I suppose when he probably, he is actually completely unaware. He's not like Jack Lemmon at all. Jack Lemmon was always kind of aware of what was going on.
Exactly. And so Pacey becomes aware, I think, when Danny's wife comes in and says, is looking for him. And he's like, "Oh, he's not here." And he kind of, "I hope you guys had like a nice night last night." And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you mean like being totally sick and, in bed all night?" So she comes in, she's like talking to him. She sounds like she has a bit of a cold. So she makes it clear that she was not on that boat, that she did not, you know, go have a nice night out with her husband. She was sick. And
Dissecting Danny. What does he do to
when
him?
Pacey asked Danny about it, he's like, "Oh, yes, thank you. The wife had a great time." So now Pacey's like, "Okay,
Mm.
it's fishiness happening here." So that's kind of what
Maybe
Pacey's
he's
dealing with at the moment.
polygamous. Maybe we'll just give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he has multiple wives. Maybe he's a Mormon. Although it's not in
Okay. But
Utah,
I
so
mean, we ultimately find out who the person is at the end of the
yes, we do.
second episode. So
Yes, we do.
not another
I'm
not
being
another
silly.
not another wife. But, so that's kind of what Pace is dealing with in this episode. And then we have Dawson, who decides, yes, to, come back to Boston and spend the week with Joey, who has just
Doesn't work out
gotten
very well.
an invitation
Joey's
from her
attitude.
professor. Yes. She doesn't know what to say to him. She gets this book on grief. She's kind of nervous. She doesn't want to make it about her, but she just doesn't know, the right thing to say still. She's kind of in this weird like, how do I make it easy for him, but how do I make it how do I show my care without, putting all this pressure on it kind of thing.
Yes.
So
She's
she's kind of,
overthinking to an absurd degree.
yeah,
Audrey is
exactly.
trying to help as best Audrey can, but Audrey is just a little bit flighty, obviously, as we know.
Yeah.
But means well. The one thing I think is a really bad idea to do from Joey's perspective, and I do feel sympathy for Joey in this point. I understand it's incredibly difficult to have such a close friend as they are, such a, you know, a budding romance, again, as it may very well be. I don't know, you know, who's to say what's going to happen for the rest of the show. But okay, a soulmate, you could call it that, in terms of what Dawson and Joey are, whether they're romantically involved or not. To have somebody that you're that close to be dealing with something like that, of course you're not going to know what the hell to say properly. Of course you're going to want to help in every single possible way, and you're going to be overthinking everything. It's exactly what Joey's doing. It can come across a little bit overzealous, a little bit annoying, a little bit sort of, Joey, just calm down for 3 minutes,
just relax,
please.
But
and kind of, in a way, stop making it all about yourself. I understand, but please stop making it all about yourself.
Like, you're not
just in that cycle of continuing to do that and not wanting to do that and realizing she shouldn't be doing that, but doing it anyway. And it's a tough cycle to break. The one thing you definitely don't want to do, though, is buy a book for Dawson called How to Deal with Your Parents' Death in huge black letters on the front. Don't do that.
I didn't like that. Like, and I can see Dawson probably didn't like it either. But it's very much like her kind of needing him to tell her she's validate her kind of mixed up feelings, which then ultimately makes it about her. And hear him say, like, I know you don't mean to make it about you. Like, she needs him to validate, like, her crazed feelings about this, ultimately making it about her and not about him in the cycle, as you said. So it's a bit of a messy kind of thing. And before he comes, she does get this. Yes, she does get this invitation from her Professor Wilder, to go to his place for a party where they're kind of looking through this stuff of an alumni author who has passed away. So it's like this really kind of exciting thing for the class, and he's chosen her, and so she's like really excited to do it, but Dawson's coming.
I mean, so on the surface, a professor asking a student to go to a party is a bit suspect, but this one isn't.
You would just God, why is everything? Your mind is just shifting to the darkness with every scenario. I think because we just discussed about how these storylines aren't incredibly interesting, you are literally just trying to make them more interesting. Every single one.
Look, listen, is that a bad thing? Is that not my creativity showing a spark?
You're so creative. You should be in Professor Wilder's creative writing class. So, we've already had the teachers.
Invited me to a party. It's a bit suspect. I'm 18, Professor. What are you doing?
I mean, but it was a group party. There were several students there.
I know. It's perfectly fine and above board.
We've already had our scandalous student teacher situation on Dawson's Creek.
But that was so long ago. You can barely remember it. It lasted
good.
About 4
you should
episodes.
You shouldn't remember it. So scandalous.
And he was 15 at the time. Pacey. Yes, was a bit very suspect.
Yeah, very, very incredibly Tamara. But when things are just kind of like fumbling, bumbling, Joey doesn't know the right thing to say. She does mention the party, and so he's like, "Yeah, well, sure, let's go." And so once he's there, he's just kind of starting to get really hot and uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to do. You know, people are trying to talk to him, and he's just getting really anxious and nervous. He sees Joey, like, you know, having a nice conversation with people, and he just can't handle it. And so he kind of just goes up to her and is like, we have to go now. Like, he doesn't know what's happening to him. Saying that it was hard for him to breathe, and he just got really hot. And so it's clear like he's having some sort of panic attack. And so it's kind of a fizzle on this visit that was supposed to kind of be this nice thing. So he ultimately ends up leaving the next day, and he leaves the book there. And we see like she wrote something kind of, you know, really nice inside the book for him to read. And so she doesn't know if he read it or not or anything. Just kind of telling him that she's there for him and that whole kind of thing. So
I'm now wondering whether the book itself was a bad idea, or whether the graphic artist who created the cover for that book just did a bad job. And
well, it looks kind of like the style of those Chicken Soup for the Soul type books. That's what it looks like. So kind of a cheesy looking cover for something so kind of difficult.
yeah,
And
let's
I don't
be a bit
know
more
that.
subtle with the cover.
Yeah, and I don't know, and it's like huge letters, like you said, and it's like I don't know that how Dawson is dealing with this, that a book is really going to help him deal with this.
No,
So
he
I
needs
think
to
it was just
watch
kind of
a
an
movie
act of
about grief.
desperation. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So I think, in seeing what he's dealing with, I think she maybe was just desperate to find some kind of way to relate to him.
Yes.
And that's why I think she kind of mentions that, like she wrote it all in the inside the book, because she just didn't really know what to say to him face to
Yeah.
face. So ultimately we don't know if Dawson like read that or not, but we hear her kind of reading it aloud at the kind of end of the episode. So yeah, not a ton of like crazy exciting things happening, just a lot of kind of relationship shakeups. We do see Jen, she is going to a play. I think she invited Charlie to go with her, but he said no, he had plans. And then she sees him in the window of a restaurant with a girl, and he's holding the girl's hand, and so she immediately thinks he's cheating on her. She rushes in there, throws his coffee in his lap, and then he tells her, this is my sister. So now she just looks like crazy, jealous girlfriend who's not even really a girlfriend. So,
but that's not unfounded, though, is it, Jen?
No. So I think she decides to go to Charlie's apartment later to apologize, and then she sees him making out with a girl coming out of there. So, not unfounded feeling for Jen at all, which just sucks because, like, can we just see Jen be happy in a relationship for once?
Unfortunately, seemingly not. And thankfully, obviously, from Charlie's point of view, it's not the same girl, because that would be his sister, and that would be another wild storyline.
Here you go again. There you go. Yes, your creativity is just creativity off the chain today. But yeah, so that's ultimately where we end that episode, with some not the most exciting storylines, but stuff that is, driving the plot and making us kind of curious, like, where is this going to go? How are these things going to be resolved type thing. So yeah.
They're not, nothing is uninteresting remotely.
No.
It is just a come down emotionally from the heights of what we had.
Yeah.
It's still good. It's still enjoyable. It's still interesting. It's still, as you say, it brings and broods, not broods, births curiosity, I suppose. It still has all that in. Another thing that Joey does, unfortunately, wrong in the episode, is try showing Dawson a nice light fun comedy movie that ends up having a car crash in it.
Oh yes, and so she tries to like rush to like turn off the tape, and she can't do it, and that's kind of, Dawson does have a bit of a kind of bad reaction to it, and that's when he just decides, let's get out and go to this party, but ultimately then that does not work out either, and speaks to a bigger issue, a deeper issue happening with him.
Look, there is nothing within me at the moment that can possibly be angry at Dawson, which is very unusual, obviously, for now over 4 seasons of Dawson's Creek, for me to not be angry with Dawson at any given point, or any and every given opportunity. But I can't possibly be like that at the minute. It would be too cruel. So, what he would not, he obviously is going to react pretty badly to something like that. And we can ask ourselves the question as to whether it would be better therapy for him to watch a light, easy, escapist comedy movie, or a genuinely meaningful grief movie. Let's think about the best grief movies that Dawson could watch. I can't think off the top of my head, but in the comments, let us know what would your best sort of grief movie for Dawson.
I mean, I guess Ordinary People.
Ordinary People? Well, yes, but nobody died.
Would that make you more? Yeah, I mean, that's what he's dealing with, the death of his brother.
His brother, though, it's not a parent.
Okay, well, you didn't say that's related to his situation. You just said
I
grief.
wanted it to be
You just said
specific.
grief. Okay, well, we'll have
I mean,
to
ordinary,
think on
yes, no, you are right. Ordinary people would be a very good one, obviously, to delve into, although it's a tough one.
But Dawson, I think, is very much in a place to not face it in any kind of capacity.
No,
so I don't know
doesn't
that a
want
grief
to.
movie would work for him in the state of mind that he is in at the moment.
Not yet. Give it a year.
Yeah, because I think it's only been like a month, I think they say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Too quick. Well, episode 6 then, titled High Anxiety. The binder is back out.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the Mel Brooks movie that was the spoof of various Hitchcock suspense thrillers, such as Vertigo and Rear Window and other such things, which was also called High Anxiety. This is the episode of Dawson's Creek.
Yes. Aired November 14th, 2001. Dawson is having trouble with anxiety attacks since his father's death. So he tries to escape reality on a night of debauchery with Jack and his fraternity brothers, which ends with Dawson accusing Joey of causing his father's death. Meanwhile, Jen seeks revenge on Charlie. Audrey's mom visits, and Pacey makes a discovery about Danny.
Yes, furthering the things we were talking about, obviously, from that last episode. I think first and foremost, the conclusion that Dawson comes to that Joey caused his father's death is a wild take.
Well, it's a drunk take as well, but it's probably something playing in his subconscious. Yeah,
it's he ultimately incredible stretch.
Yes. But I could see how he would get there in a drunken state because he already kind of was blaming himself because of why he was there. And then you add this layer in being around Joey, and Joey kind of, having this weird weekend with her prior, just having that kind of looming in your subconscious. But Dawson ultimately, he sees a doctor. He tells the doctor about kind of the physical problems he's been having. He says it sounds like anxiety attacks. Maybe you should go see this therapist in Boston. So that's why he's back in Boston. So ultimately,
doesn't quite go through with seeing the therapist.
No, he's sitting in there. He's looking at their degrees on the wall. It's quiet. Nobody's coming out. So he just can't handle it. And he just bounces. He just leaves and goes to Graham's house to stay. But he runs into Jack.
Therapist, though.
Yes. Well, Grams isn't there, so he goes there.
No, Grams isn't there. Grams isn't actually in the episodes, but Grams herself can be a good therapist.
She can.
Grams is not a professional therapist. We must remember we can't just trauma dump onto Grams whenever we want to. No. But she's a good. She's a good.
She definitely is. But yeah, he ultimately ends up running into Jen, who's headed out somewhere looking pretty fancy. And then runs into Jack, and Jack is like headed to the fraternity for a party. And so Dawson says, you know what? Why don't I tag along? I'll go with you. And so Jack's like, yeah, cool.
Drink myself into a stupor tonight.
Yes. And we also see that there is some tension between Jack and Jen, that they're not really talking still. So that's kind of what's happening with their friendship. So Jack takes Dawson. Yes, Jack takes Dawson to this party. Dawson's drinking, having a good time, which will come into play a little bit later because Jen is dealing with her situation. She's seen Charlie now kissing another girl. She's on Pacey's houseboat while he's like cleaning up, talking to him about it and venting about it. And as he's kind of picking things up, he finds this locket. Ultimately he gives the locket to Danny, and Danny kind of course makes some excuse that it's his wife's or whatever. And by the end, just to kind of tie up Pacey's story, since his is pretty easy, he ultimately
Pacey's eyes at this point are saying, it's not your wife's though, is it, Danny?
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely know it's not hers. He ends up seeing it around Karen's neck. So now we know that Danny is having an affair with Karen. So not only is it his mentor doing something fairly, pretty immoral, but it's also with a girl that he kind of might be having budding feelings for. So it's a very kind of complicated feeling. So it's somebody that Pacey really admires and likes doing something wrong with a woman that he ultimately kind of finds himself starting to care about. So yeah, a little messy. A little messy.
Very, very messy. I am kind of fascinated to know if we get any sort of added depth into this Karen and Danny dynamic, because Karen just seems nothing but annoyed with Danny for obviously not getting the position that he's given Pacey.
I think you can probably now.
What does that tense romantic situation look like? Is it just a bit aggro? You know,
well,
what's
I think you
going
can.
on?
Well, I think now that you have this information, you could probably read more into her reactions to Danny as well, as more than just him giving her job away.
Well, sure. Yes, she's going to want it. She's going to feel like she should have it because there's a little bit of round the side, round the back situation.
Romance happening between the two of them. So, yes. So any kind of antagonistic thing, I think you can probably throw into the mix of that dynamic, this affair as well. So,
but are we going to mix workplace antagonism with sordid romantic affair? Because that is very messy. I mean, that's very messy. That's very, you can't even, the mentalities are just all over the place at that point, aren't they? You can't imagine what the hell's going on. So
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna get a little messy. I will say that much. But before that kind of episode starts, Danny's asking to use the boat again. Pacey says, "I'm sorry, no." He's gonna have a couple people over, and then Karen kind of shouts to everyone, "Hey, everybody! Pacey's having a party on his boat." So then it ends up kind of turning into a bit of a party situation. So that's when kind of everyone ends up by the end of the episode congregating to this houseboat party. And that's, Jack and and so Jack and Dawson end up there. Dawson now at this point super drunk. And yeah, he runs into Joey and he says this thing, about, maybe if we hadn't kissed, I wouldn't have thought I had to drop out of school, and then I wouldn't have gone home, and then my dad wouldn't have had to go out to the store. So yeah, like he kind of blurts out that like her kissing him in that whole situation, her kind of clouding his thoughts of dropping out of school is what kind of set all of this in motion. And he even says, yeah, and maybe my dad would still be alive. So he kind of drunkenly
the butterfly effect is wild.
Yeah. So he says it in a drunken kind of laughing kind of sense, and Joey's just like incredibly hurt. And before he can even process her reaction, somebody like it's party people are pulling him away. So yeah.
Obviously, Joey is stunned into shock, devastation by this. Of course, what a horrible, horrible thing for him to say.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, I can't even be mad at Dawson, because I kind of understand why his mentality would drag him to make that stretch. It is just an insane stretch. It's an insane cause and effect. He's fabricated here. That is not possible for that to affect what came after, and then what came after, and then what came after. It is absolutely insane. You kissed me, so that's why my father
died. What set all of this in motion. Yeah. And so he does kind of have to confer with Pacey the next day that he did say something terrible, and he feels really bad about it. So this was not something he meant to say.
No,
just an intrusive thought that came out in his drunkenness. So
we can't be letting the intrusive thoughts come out. This is how murders happen, Dawson. This is how people end up getting beaten. It's
going so dark today with everything.
Goodness,
have you been watching like some noirs lately? Like,
yes, obviously. This is how intrusive. No, okay, let's go for this. Intrusive thoughts. This is how people accidentally end up falling off tall buildings, because they just have an intrusive thought of, "Oh, that's a drop,
and then
a ledge over there," and all of a sudden, tumble, death.
Yeah.
Intrusive thought.
Yes. So
We've all
Dawson
had that
might as
when we've been at
well.
the top of
Yeah.
a tall building. If we have been at the top of a tall building, we've all thought, "Oh
Yeah.
God, that's a hell of a drop. I wonder what it'd be like to fall."
Yeah.
But then we don't do it, do we? Because we're
No,
sensitive.
no. Well, Dawson jumped off the building in saying this horrible thing to
Metaphorically,
Joe.
yes.
Yes, yeah, to Joey, and feels awful about it. So, yeah, that definitely, I think is gonna be solidifying Dawson's choices going forward. I think it kind of puts a bit of a damper on any kind of budding
Yeah.
situation with them that could
I
be
think it's bye-bye
possible.
Joey time.
Yeah, yeah. So, I told you that Dawson would potentially find his way back to his path. So, um, and I
Yeah.
told you also that I don't quite remember episode to episode, like what happens. Like once I'm watching it is when I remember. But like just putting on the episode, it's not, I'm not like, before we go into watching it, I'm not remembering, oh, this is what happens in these
Specifics.
next two. Yeah. It
Yeah.
isn't until I'm watching it that I remember what happened. So I don't quite know what that looks like, but I do remember like this is kind of what sets maybe in motion him getting back on his original path. So yeah.
It's strange and kind of annoying to think that this might be bye-bye Dawson and Joey time, because what was the point of all the Pacey and Joey fallout if not for Dawson? So the fact that
For
we're
them
now
to
just
have
not,
this chance.
yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that we're now just not doing that again, and the fact that really the elongated couple of the whole show is Joey and Dawson. Or very, very on and off. Very obviously, actually, time spent together in a relationship is quite minimal.
Mhm.
But tension-wise, romantic tension-wise,
Yeah.
constant. But
Yes.
now that may have stopped. And I mean, I've said in the past, how does it come back from this? I'm sure I said that about Mike Potter, the whole Mike Potter situation. How does it come back from this? And it somehow did. And then how does
Yeah.
it come back from Pacey and Joey? And it somehow did.
Somehow did. Yeah. So they'll find
And
a
then
way.
how does it come back from this? But we've only got like a season and 2/3 of a show left. So maybe it now doesn't come back from this for the remainder of Dawson's Creek.
No.
And I'm not saying I'm mad about it, but it needs to go somewhere where
It
for
makes
both
sense,
of
and
them,
it's not.
I think it makes sense, and it is sort of an understanding positivity for both of them as well. Of yes, we always thought we were destined. We always thought this was fate. It was meant to be with the childhood friends, the growing up together, never being away from each other, always being at each other's side, joined at the hip. But in actual adult reality, we now come to the realization mutually and platonically and pleasantly of actually it just makes sense with different people for both of us, which is fine. I need it to kind of get there. I hope it does.
Okay, we shall see. We shall see.
Even though I don't necessarily want, Joey to just fall back into the arms of Pacey, because I think we've been and gone with that.
Yeah. Yes. And I think Jack does end up getting a little bit of judgment as well for like helping Dawson in this way, which is not very constructive. So yeah, I think
you made Dawson drunk, so
I think
this. Oh God.
Well, it's just the fact that like he's going through something, and this is kind of how you decide to have this hands-off kind of friend, and so Jack is very much like not being the best friend, and I think he is leaning a little bit too much in the fraternity thing.
Well,
but then also it's just
now he has to act like that a little bit.
Yeah,
playing
so
baseball next.
Baseball.
Do people play baseball? The frat? No, they play football. He
Football.
He did play football. He's perfect.
He did. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, doing what Dawson wants to do, yeah, okay, but, like, also having the judgment to see is probably not the best thing for your friend right now. So Jack not really, being aware enough to, like, know that probably was not a good idea. He's just kinda speaking to, like, where he's at right now, so, yeah. So then we move on to Jen, and she ends up, going to Charlie's and kind of trying to play like she doesn't really know what's going on. And he's like, "Oh, it's not a good time. I think you should go." And she's like, "Oh, well, why should I go? Okay, well, if I'm gonna go, then," and she tries to come on to him, and he's like, "It's not a good time." And she's like, "Oh,
yes,
well,
she's
let me
all
go in the
dressed very
closet."
fancily and everything.
Yes. Yeah, and so she's like, "Well, if I'm gonna leave, then let me get in the closet and get my sweater." And he's like, "What sweater?" And she's like, "Oh, the one I left here that one time." And he's like blocking her from getting in the closet. And, she's able to get by him, open the closet, and he has a girl in there. So this girl, I think her name's Nora. So ultimately now it's a situation where Charlie's trying to talk his way out of it, saying, "Oh, well, I never said to either of you that we were exclusive, but maybe we can have some fun together." And so he
this
tries
is
to,
when
like,
it becomes silly.
he tries to get like a bit of a threesome situation going. And so the girls kind of look at each other and let him strip down and make him think that they are all in, only for them to lock him out of his apartment or his dorm room naked. And
Yes,
they kind
very
of have a
good,
little bit of
very
a bonding
hilarious.
thing. Yes. And then outside they've stolen like some of his items and throw it in the trash and all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, they ultimately end up having a bit of a nice little bond, these two girls who Charlie has scorned. So
Obviously, the one thing Charlie doesn't want is to be wandering around the college campus with,
naked.
as it were, tackle out. So
Yes,
he
exactly.
doesn't
So
want to be doing that.
yeah, I think it's pretty good revenge on their part. So
Yeah, it
yeah.
is. It lasted
Yeah.
quite a while, though, this
Oh
manipulation
yeah.
scene
Yeah. We
of
kind
the
of
two
cut
of them.
back to this storyline for quite a few scenes.
It's
So
for some reason as well. It's set to like strippy wang wang music as well,
yeah.
which is really fun.
Yeah, exactly.
There's maybe
Like,
like a few seconds when I think, wait a minute, they're not actually
you're
doing
gonna go
this, are
for
they?
this? Yeah,
Like,
like, it's
we're
gonna
not
be like
actually dealing
American
with this in
Pie
Dawson's Creek. I
situation.
thought a very
Yeah,
American Pie sort of situation.
yeah,
We're not actually doing this now, are we?
yeah.
No,
No,
we're
no, no, no.
not. It's all a ploy. It's all a trick. And
Exactly. So
good,
it
this is a
works.
better way of doing. And a
Yeah,
good bond, yeah, okay, does form
between
between
these two
Jen
women.
and Nora
Yeah.
afterwards, which is
Yeah,
fun.
fun.
I think
Yeah.
I'd like to see that go somewhere, whether it will or not, I
And
don't know. But
I will say we do. We do see it
okay,
go somewhere from what I recall.
okay,
So that's all I'll say.
interesting.
But
Okay,
yes.
interesting.
And
Okay.
then lastly, yeah, I think we have um what's left?
Audrey's mum is
Audrey's
left.
mom, yes. So, Audrey's kind of, giving Joey the rundown on how terrible her mother is, very competitive in terms of like, wanting to look good and criticizing Audrey's weight and,
This woman is
what
terrible.
she looks like and how well she's doing in school and just kind of picking at every aspect of her. And Joey's like, it can't be that bad. And also Joey very much like, her usual guilt thing, at least you have a mother kind of energy that she
Oh,
brings to it.
every damn
A little
time.
bit. She brings it a
Just be
little
thankful
bit.
you have a mother, because if you didn't know, my mother died horribly from cancer, and my father
Yes, at least
cheated on her
you
while she
have
was
your mother
my
kind
my
of thing.
my drug smuggling father cheated on her when
She was
when
sick,
she had cancer, and then she
dying.
was in prison, and then I had nothing, and I had to live on the street. You didn't have
I
to
mean,
live
she
on the
doesn't
street.
say all of that, but I think she tries to kind of like, she
She
can't be that
does.
bad. She can't be that bad, Audrey. You have your mom. So she convinces Joey, please come with me tonight to dinner. I can't handle her by myself. And as soon as this woman
Yeah.
shows up, all fancily dressed,
Terrible woman.
yes, and just talking down everything Audrey's doing and like all kinds of stuff. So they go to this
I mean,
dinner and
Audrey's
Audrey's just
from
sat
LA,
there.
right? Audrey's from LA.
Mhm.
This woman is the most, like, LA woman you've ever met.
Yes, and also
It's the
kind of like
most
older woman trying to be young type kind of
yeah,
thing.
the most vain, judgy, highly emotionally manipulative, incredibly just fake woman you've ever come across. It's Los Angeles incarnate.
Exactly. So, yeah, and so at this dinner, like, Joey's just watching Audrey sit there and take all of this hate that her mom's giving her, talking about incidences at her prior school, and this is why she had to pay so much to get her into this school, and she's probably not gonna do anything with her degree, and she just, is wasting her life, and she needs to lose weight, and, why is she eating this and that and the other thing? And so Joey just can't take it. She's like, "Ma'am, I've seen you sit here and berate your daughter for like the last hour, and she's been a champ and taking it, but I can't do that. Like, what is your problem
This
with
is a
her? Are
very
you jealous of her?"
unpleasant meal.
Yes, like, are you jealous of her because she's younger than you are? Like, are you, like, mad that she, has friends and she's, you know sure, Audrey's kind of all over the place, but at least she's not boring. She's like one of the most interesting people I've met. So I don't know what your problem is with her. Like, so Joey like ends up standing up for Audrey, and this is kind of what ends up sealing their friendship, because it's kind of been this thing where Audrey has been trying and Joey's been like kind of she's just flighty and different, and no, we're not really friends. So I think this is like the first time like Joey has like been able to see kind of why Audrey is the way she is, has some empathy for her, and now she can see, I think it's opening her eyes to all of the moments where Audrey was kind of trying to be there for her and be a friend to her when Joey was a bit dismissive. And so this is Joey to kind of, make up for that in this moment in standing up for her. So it was really nice. And ultimately, I didn't like I didn't like that Audrey. I kind of didn't like that Audrey like made up with her mom at the end.
No, I don't like that at all. I believe we should be cutting ties here. We're not in the Joey mentality of be grateful you at least have a mother.
Exactly.
I fundamentally, as a human
this woman
being,
is toxic to your life. Don't.
Yeah.
Yes. And so she ultimately like kind of calls her out, like, you know, all the things you just said, and none of them were an apology. Like, she has to say that for her mom to ultimately apologize, and you're still gonna like have this nice little goodbye. Like,
but it's a
she's like, I'd ask you, like,
as well.
Yes, and she says like, "Oh, I'd ask you to just never come back and not see me, which I would love, but I can't. I know you're not gonna do that." Like, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
it's
really,
weird. It's weird,
it's
this kind of resolution that they have. Like, I don't like it. So, yeah.
No, I don't like it either. This is something I do fundamentally believe in as a human being. We do not have to tolerate toxic family members.
Exactly.
I personally am very fortunate and grateful that I don't really have any. So I don't have that mentality or that thing to deal with, as it were. But people in my life have had that. People in my life do have that. And we shouldn't force these people to have some sort
Have these
of
relationships,
relationship, however strong it may be, simply because
we're
they
blood.
are family. The whole concept of but they're family, but we're family, but we share the same blood, but all that. It is damaging. That is a damaging mentality. And we see it with Audrey here. We should not be having ties with this terrible, terrible Real Housewives of Orange County woman.
Yeah, exactly. It's really disappointing.
We don't need her. Get rid of her.
Yeah.
Clearly three times divorced, terrible, no love in her heart. Give her the chains from A Christmas Carol and let her wear them with Jacob Marley and Scrooge in hell for the entirety of eternity, woman. We don't need this sort of thing.
Exactly.
Give her a set of horns and a pointy tail.
Yeah, she's awful. And so this kind of makeup that they have at the end just felt kind of weird and clunky. Like, no, you spent this whole episode making us hate this woman. I don't want to see Audrey give her any kind of chances. So,
no.
Yeah, that was kind of annoying. But yeah, so that's kind of where the episode ends. So those were this week's episodes.
There's messy stuff.
Yeah, so you're still invested in the college years, I hope.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. It is a completely different vibe of the show, really. And it does feel like a bit more of a obviously maturing adult version of Dawson's Creek as well. We're not dealing with, English class. We're dealing with,
Yeah.
college, jobs, deep relationships.
Yeah, more grown-up relationships. Yeah, college experiences.
Affairs.
Yeah.
Like, not, I've not done my English homework and I need to do this assignment. And I mean, Joey's still a little bit, I need to do
like
this
that.
assignment. I need to do this assignment. You're not 12 anymore, Joey. You're not legally obliged to actually go to university, Joey. I don't know if you're aware of this. This is
I mean, if she has her scholarship, like the poor thing that she is, she does.
No, that's true. Yeah, you probably are. Well, it wouldn't be a legal obligation to go.
No,
but you are legally obliged to be educated in some form of school, whether it's comprehensive school, state school, public school, whatever it may be. Or homeschooling, obviously, is perfectly legal as well. As long as you are being educated, nobody is not allowed an education, which is a wonderful thing that we have in the countries we live in, that you are ultimately forced to go to school. People should be forced to go to school.
Yeah.
People should be forced to stay in school. Children
nowadays.
Children should be forced to stay in school all the time so I can go about my day on any given day that I may choose to go about my day in and not have to deal with 12-year-olds. That's what I think.
Okay. That's fair.
And I didn't have that mentality when I was 12, but I do now. That's called growth.
Yes, we appreciate it. We always appreciate some growth.
Or it might be referred to as cruelty, which it probably is.
Maybe a little bit. Just a little bit.
Probably is that. Yes, they're just loud, aren't they? They're just loud. The youth.
Yeah, the youth.
I can't just go and have a nice day out without shouting.
Dealing with them.
I don't shout or hearing shouting around, and I don't know why I'm talking about this now. Anyway, it's not relevant. It's not relevant to the episode, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. But I appreciate your take on the world, Morgan, always.
I'm sure other people do as well.
Yes.
But yes, Dawson's Creek. Discovering Dawson's Creek. There we go for another episode of this lovely show. We will be back, of course, in a couple of weeks' time for episodes 7 and 8 of season 5, getting right into the heart of the middle of the season swiftly, as it always seems to get quick. It always seems to kind of come quickly and then end slowly. I think the first half of the seasons, I always feel like we get through really quickly for some reason.
Yeah, we get through to the middle pretty quick, and then it's like the last half always feels like it takes a long time to get to.
But it's the same time. It doesn't make sense.
It is. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
What does that say mentally and psychologically? Who's to say? Let us know in the comments of the episode. Obviously, how you may therapize us watching and discovering Dawson's Creek. This show, of course, alternates every Monday with diving into Doctor Who at the moment in the Jeannine hasn't seen TV bracket that falls into very exciting times as we are in series 3 now over on diving into Doctor Who. Obviously, Morgan hasn't seen his every Wednesday, Saturday morning movies throughout June on that show. And the main show, It's a Wonderful Podcast, every Friday, celebrating old movies, of course, in a Robert Mitchum series for June at the moment. Great stuff all week long on It's a Wonderful Podcast. Do subscribe wherever you are listening to this show today on all major podcast platforms, or alternatively, if you are watching today's episode, do subscribe and ding your notification bell on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Go and do that anyway, even if you're not watching today's episode. Leave your comments on Spotify or indeed on YouTube. rate, review, like, and share wherever else you may be listening. And if you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, you can find the links to do that in the description of the episode, as well as all the social media. You can find us on and across at It's a Wonderful One on the app formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at The Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in there because, Jeannine,
3 is a magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at The Purple Dawn. All your college years are well.
You can find me at Jeannine _ on Twitter, Jeannine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
Well, there we go. It does leave only one thing left to do, and I'm not quite sure if we have any sort of impression. We don't, do we really?
No,
I mean, it's annoying.
Not really.
I'm going to do an impression of Audrey's mum as the most vain, devilish LA mum you've ever seen.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.